Hello, YouTubers. This is Gold Standard 0924 coming at you with Volume 9 of my TV's Forgotten Gems for today. Now, before I get started, this is going to be me conducting a three-part mini-series for Forgotten Gems. Now, in those three videos that I'll be doing, I'll be discussing some of NBC's teen dramas. And, as far as we know, NBC, has been around for over 5 decades. And as far as their primetime TV shows go, they've been really successful with sitcoms and dramas and variety shows. So those are one of the three particular TV genres that NBC does best. But on the other hand, you have some of the teen dramas that NBC has aired over the years, and there aren't really a whole bunch you can really think of. Because a lot of their teen dramas got canceled like a lot sooner than a lot of viewers expected. Um, Most of it attributed to like low ratings, lack of viewership. So that's kind of one of the things I'll be kind of discussing throughout this three-part mini-series. So, Volume 9, I'm going to be discussing on a particular teen drama that just didn't really, like many other teen dramas on NBC, hadn't really caught on. And this one in particular is one of the many examples of a forgotten teen drama. So, for this video, I'll be discussing on the short-lived Aaron Spelling television series Malibu Shores. So Malibu Shores stars Mickey Mouse Club alumnis Keri Russell and Tony Lucca. So eventually they worked together on this particular TV show. They were portrayed as like the power couple of this show, and basically what it's about is that there are two groups of two different lifestyles, and you have Keri Russell's character named Chloe, who comes from a rich family, and you also have Tony Lucca's character who portrays Zack on that particular show. And they come from different hierarchies. Zack's kind of like the middle working class, and eventually he gets transferred over to Malibu, and where he meets up with Keri Russell's character. So eventually they sort of hook up, but along the way there are those two groups that just don't think that they should hook up. And it really kind of is very reminiscent of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. If Romeo and Juliet, they were teasing a relationship, but there are like two families that just don't think they should coexist. Um, so it kind of works in that sort of department. And that was kind of a common theme you see throughout the two-part pilot episode. And and eventually, they get to know one another, and they eventually hook up by the end of the two-parter. So throughout the course of the series, they both learn about each other's flaws and some of the issues that they go through in adolescence. Um, so um, so there is actually an ensemble group of cast like Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place, since it was produced by the same production company. So there are a lot of familiar faces that you will notice in this particular TV show, and you also have Charisma Carpenter, um, Walter Jones, Shance Atkins. So there are also another notable faces on there, Barry Watson as well from Seventh Heaven. Um, so most of these actors went on to do bigger projects, and for a show that only ran for 10 episodes, it was really put at a pretty poor time slot on a pretty poor night. So, I mean, it was on Saturday nights, and it was a time when, you know, it tends to get like one of the lowest rated views. So nowadays, they don't really do Saturday nights as far as premiering new shows on there. And unfortunately, the show just didn't really seem to catch on with the audience. And it was kind of one of those shows that just tried to capitalize on Beverly Hills 90210's success and utilizing the same structured formula that made 90210 what it was. And throughout the course of each episode, they deal with a lot of it's kind of like a bit of an after school special, so to speak. So so you have a couple characters on here like Chloe's brother Josh, who was suffering from an alcoholic problem, just like their father was, and that kind of ultimately led to their parents splitting up. So, eventually Josh was suffering from, alcoholic problems. He got into a car collision at one point. Um, and then you also have his best friend Teddy, who his parents were kind of neglecting him. And actually, his mother had passed away, and his father was very busy as a photographer to spend time with Teddy. So, so there are problems that each characters of these shows go through. Now, it's currently not released on DVD. Um, it hasn't been re-aired on TV since its initial run on NBC. But it's very interesting to see some of these cast members that would go on to become bigger stars in Hollywood. Keri Russell went on to do Felicity. Um, Tony Lucca, well, he was a very successful music producer, although he didn't really get very far as acting is concerned. Um, yeah, so he actually became a music producer and then continued his music when he was one of the contestants on The Voice. Um, so he's done that. And Charisma Carpenter went on to play Cordelia on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the spin-off show Angel. So and as well as Sean Atkins, who went on to do Smart Guy and Mr. Box Office, among various others. So yeah, it has a really strong cast, but in terms of the quality and the viewership of the show, it just didn't really click with the what NBC was sort of looking out for. Um, I mean, I think the demographic does have to do with the show not being successful as it could have been. Um, so, I mean, it wasn't necessarily anything vulgar for the most part, as far as like some of the edginess that was going on in the show. But however, there are some scenes where one of the characters was getting raped. Um, yeah, I believe it was one of the Chloe's best friend, Nina. So eventually, the last two episodes of this series, it kind of ends on a downer note. And what happens was that Keri Russell's character Chloe was actually going through this sort of eating disorder, and constantly throwing up as well. And eventually, Zack finds out during a hotline class that he takes, and and reveals who the mystery caller was. So eventually, he tells Chloe's mother about the situation at hand, and as a result, Chloe was sent to this sort of facility, and where she was kind of losing weight, and and it kind of really attributes to some of the problems ever since her parents split up, and she didn't really tell anybody about the whole situation until the last two episodes. Um, and also while that was going on, Chloe's friend Nina was was on the verge of getting raped. So she didn't really report it, and until later into the finale, and eventually the charges were dropped, and despite all her Nita's efforts, the character that tried to rape Nita was basically set free. But Teddy just couldn't stand it, and it kind of leads to this little fight that goes on in the bleachers. And Zack, Chloe's boyfriend, comes along and confront the suspect, and then the suspect trips down, falls unconscious, and instead of having Teddy and Zack report the police, they kind of ditched away from the scene, and eventually this kind of gets to the point where Zack actually was on the brink of trying to escape. So he was set to leave Malibu, and Chloe somehow escapes the facility, and and they both pretty much drove off the sunset. And that was basically how the show ended. Now, it was really one of those shows that just kind of tried to click with the audience, but didn't really do for the most part. Um, but it was for a show that only ran for about 10 episodes. It was kind of just a series that hasn't really aged very well. So overall, I mean, the Malibu Shores, if you like some sappy drama, then the show might be for you. But once again, this show was kind of milking in on the success of Beverly Hills 90210. So it's basically Malibu Shores in a nutshell. So that's basically it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. It may seem like kind of out of character of me to kind of discuss about this particular TV show, but it does have some of the cast members from the Mickey Mouse Club, so I guess it's kind of understandable as to why the writing of the show kind of seemed very cheesy, especially for like primetime television standards. But after Malibu Shores ended, um, there was another teen drama that pretty much took over the spot of Malibu Shores several years later, and it also kind of suffered from a very similar treatment. And for Volume 10, I will be discussing about none other than Freaks and Geeks. So stick around for that, and thank you all for watching. So till next time, this is Gold Standard 00924 signing out.